Recording. Sweet. Y'all can see everything that I'm doing here. Yep. You can see my mouse moving around. Great.
You actually typed MK dear fuck?
No?
Okay.
Oh, guilty, caught red-handed, and it's recorded. Okay, so today we're going to kind of go over, we're going to do a quick build and burn, doing some active record stuff, some TTY prompt stuff. How the fuck do I make a user? We'll figure it out. All right, cool. So I'm going to start by cloning that thing down. Git clone, bam. Now, when I do that, if I look in my directories, what we should see is a boilerplate AR setup, because that's exactly what we cloned down. But you know what? I don't actually want this to be called boilerplate AR setup, because let's say I always start with this boilerplate setup. Well, ideally, it would be nice if I actually had names that meant something each time. So for me, we're going to call this, I want to change the name of it. So I'm going to use the mv or move command, meaning you're moving something from being in one file to another file, which you could also use to rename it. So in other words, if I move all the contents of this folder into another folder with a different name, that's kind of basically just a rename there. So let's go ahead and call this, we'll call it sign in app. Yeah, really creative name. And now if I look, I no longer have a boilerplate AR setup, but what I do have is a sign-in app. So I'm going to go ahead and CD into sign-in app. And there's one more thing I want to do. Does everybody notice how when I CD'd into this app, this master thing popped up? Everybody notice that? If anybody got to this step and this didn't show up like that on your screen, that means that you don't have your Zish configured correctly. And it's just a visual thing, but it's a visual thing worth figuring out. So if you reach out to me sometime later today, I'd be happy to help you debug that. If you are in here and all you see is just some file path here and not master, that's a strong indication that you could benefit from working on making an upgrade to your terminal. I have to close the door real quick. Neato. Okay. Sweet. So Slack me if that's not the case. It's not a big deal. It's not going to affect much for now. So what does this mean when that shows up? I'm going to call someone. Ryan, what do you think that means?
When you're in your master, basically you're in the repository that you just cloned down. You're in that the top file for it.
Sure. And am I in that repository on my local computer, or what's the deal? How does it connect up to GitHub and stuff? What's going on?
Once you cloned it, right, you put it into your local server. So whatever you're changing on there is only on your local, and then you would have to git commit and all that clone stuff and push it back to your origin.
Beautiful. I love it. Great. So does anybody know what the file is that stores all the Git tracking on a folder is, or on a directory? How does my computer know that this is on a branch? Does anybody know the answer to that? It's okay if you don't. What?
.git?
Yep, exactly. So I'm going to type in ls and -a to show hidden files in there. And now we see that there's a .git there. I actually just want to remove the .git file. Or the .git folder. It's a folder. So I'm going to have to do rm-rf.git. So we do that, and look, master goes away. And that's what I want, because I don't want this to have any relationship to that boilerplate code that I just cloned down, right? I want to sever that tie. If I do want to store this on GitHub, now if I type in git init, it's a new master. So if I were to type in git init here, cool. Now I still have a repository, but it's not linked to that page that I don't want it to link to. Does that make sense to everybody? Cool. All right, so we're going to go ahead and just open this up, and I'm going to be slow because I've been personally trying out some new tech. So bear with me if I'm going a little slow. Maybe it'll be a good thing. So I'm going to go ahead and just type in this, which you don't have to worry about what that does. You're going to open your project in code. This is just code for me. So I have to do some weird configuration stuff here, but we're going to go ahead and on the right, we're going to have my code editor. Actually, we're going to do this. Cool. Now on here, we're going to have a code editor. Cool. And cool. Great, cool. This is my way of navigating through files, but you're going to do what you know how to do in code. Sweet. So we have to kind of explore what's going on here because I need to figure out how do we get this thing configured right? What are we doing? So I am going to go into, first I want to look at this database YAML file and see what's going on. Okay, so this database YAML file, what it's doing is this file is telling active record. Actually, let's go back to it. Let's rewind for a second. What is active record? Let's start with Jeff Golden here. What is active record? You're muted.
It is a bridge between the database and our app.
Oh, I love that definition so much.
Well, I stole it from your session yesterday.
From my session?
Wasn't it? Or no, it was Damon. Sorry. It was Damon.
It's all good. Yeah, that's a fucking phenomenal way of thinking about it. It is a bridge from our Ruby code to our database. Now, here's my question for you. Do we think our database is going to be called cats? Okay, so here what this YAML file is it's the way that Active Record knows how to configure things. So it's saying, what is my adapter? Or in other words, what database type system am I using? So here we're just going to use a SQLite file. And now it's saying, what is the database? So maybe we don't want cats.sqlite, but I don't know, what do we want our database to be called? Let's just call it, we'll call it users for now. That's not going to be a good name for yours probably, because in your project, you're going to want to name it after whatever your project is. So if your project is a pizza ordering app, you might want to call it Pizza Party, whatever you want to call it. Cool. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Nice. I am going to now save this file and we're going to go back out of here. We're going to look at some other configuration. I feel like there's other stuff that I need to figure out. I'm going to look at the environment file. Also, part of this is because I've worked with this exact boilerplate before, so I kind of know what's up. Okay, what does this mean? I'm going to call on cat.
Yeah, so we are requiring all of our files in the lib folder.
Mm-hmm. By the way, did I ever officially hit record? I want to make sure. I've definitely thought, yep, we're recording. We're recording for sure. So it requires all of the files in the lib folder. Where's my lib folder?
Well, we don't have one yet.
You don't have one yet. So maybe a good start would be to make a lib folder. So I want everybody to just make a lib folder. It's going to look a little different for me, the way that I do it. Then y'all, if my thing would decide to work. And I do it by going in here, typing in, I have to talk out loud to myself a little bit because I'm new to this new thing I'm learning. So I really appreciate y'all bearing with me. And I'm going to make a lib folder. And then also probably that'll be it for now. So cool, I have a lib folder. And then what data type do we think we'll have to have in here at some point, given that we want a user sign in?
A user class.
A user class. So let's make a user model. I'm gonna go in here and we're gonna make, it doesn't like that. A user.rb. Cool. Hopefully this will reload. Oh, there we go. Cool. Oh, yeah, looks beautiful. Oh, so happy. Sorry. Great. So that's kind of configured, not fully configured, but we got something going on. All right, what's the next step on creating this user class? How am I going to do that? So the first thing that I would do is I need to say, oh, okay, I need to probably create some kind of database. So I'm pretty sure it's been a while since I've done Active Record, but I'm pretty sure that the way that we create a database in Active Record is, oh, something we forgot to do. Sorry about this. We have to run bundle install when we're in here. So I'm going to type in bundle install. And what is that doing? Lou.
It's grabbing all of the gems and dependencies that were created with the boilerplate.
Yep. So that's exactly what it's doing. So now we should have all those dependencies installed. And because we have an Active Record configuration, I should be able to run rake commands. Oh my God, that looks horrible. Let me change my theme for y'all so that way it's like, well, it's a little late now. Just know that I'm typing in rake here. Sorry. Or here, I'll do this. Clear. And now I'll type in rake. And I'm going to go db create. I think should. Oh, you know what? Yeah, there we go. Cool. It worked. So when I run rake db create, what it does, oh, whoops, is it runs into my database.yaml file and it says, oh, okay, what's my adapter? What's my database? Let's create this darn tootin' database. So that's what it does. Cool. That's how we have our database. So the next thing that we got to do is, now that we've created it, how do I actually make a users table inside of my SQLite file? I'm going to call on Nate Croto. Correct me, please.
You nailed it the first time.
What?
You nailed it the
Croto?
first time. Croto. Yeah.
Croto. Cool. Awesome.
So have you got a migrate? Like if you're looking at your text editor, do you have like a migrate folder? Yeah.
Let's find out.
Sorry.
It looks like I do not.
So you can do rake in the terminal. You could do the rake db create migration. Then name in all capitals equals.
Oh wait, is it rake db create yeah. And then what?
Name in all capitals equals.
Oh yeah. You don't have to do this when you get to Rails, but you have to do it in.
Then you could do like create underscore users underscore table.
Love it. So in general, we want to name our migrations. Basically, we want to name our migrations the oh, you're doing rake db create migration. I think that there's also rake generate migration. We could try that too. But let's do this one first. So rake db create migration, and then we're giving this migration a name of create users table. Who can explain to me what a migration is? I'm gonna go ahead and run this. Cool, and I'm gonna go back into our code and we're gonna see now we should, hang on a second. Now inside of our migrations folder, we should have a migrations file, and that's what we wanted. So that's great. Awesome. Sweet. So now my question is, what is a migration? And for that, I'm going to ask Ben.
Migration just tells your tables to talk to one another with user input.
Not exactly. Does anybody else want to give it a try? Sam?
A migration is conveying information to a database.
Conveying information to a database. Okay.
It's instructions for the database, pardon me.
Okay, that's a little bit better. Instructions for the database is not how I would phrase it. Alex, you want to give it a shot? This is a tough one, so don't be.
No, because that's what I was gonna say.
Okay. Fedzin, you want to give it a shot? I hope I pronounced that right.
You did. Is it like your changes that you're making to your database or adding and moving
Yeah,
stuff?
so it's kind of a combination of what everybody said.
Your
So
schema
someone said
instructions.
it's instructions for your database, but instructions to do what? Specifically, a migration is always to build a part of your database or to destroy a part of your database or to change a part of your database. I'm hesitant to say it's instructions for your database because the other thing that we would do to a database is query a database, as in I could provide instructions to maybe grab certain things out of it. That's not what a migration's for. A migration, my analogy for understanding what a migration is think of your database like a building, and migrations are blueprints for the building. So for example, let's say I want to build a bathroom, right, in my house. I want to add another bathroom here. I have 2 bathrooms in this basement. There's no need for me to do that. But let's say I want to build a bathroom. Then I need to have a blueprint to build that bathroom. Now, me creating that blueprint doesn't actually create the bathroom. I have to tell workers to go and build that. And telling the workers to go and build that is like kind of like running a migration. So everybody kind of understand that?
It's schema instructions, right?
Yes, sort of. So the schema, I no, I would not phrase it like that. So
Okay.
a schema is also a blueprint. The only difference is a schema is a blueprint that Rake generates for you after it's run migrations. So let's take a look at that in a second. But a schema would be like the finished blueprint, and a migration is the individual pieces that you're using to build it. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
Yeah, but you can edit your schema, and there's always a schema behind any database file. So you
Right,
can,
but a schema is specifically, like, terminology wise, the schema is the window to see what your database looks like. You never make changes directly to the schema. You make changes to the database, and then the schema changes as a result of that.
got it. Okay, I see. I'm following.
Yeah, does that make sense? Everybody
totally.
ask a lot of questions on that. This is like one of the hardest concepts about active record. So please fire off as many questions as you want. Like, that's probably more important than anything else we could do today. So please, please, please fire off questions. Anything?
So schema is your finished blueprint, like window to your database, and it, when you want to change it, you make changes to the database, not schema.
Exactly.
Because it'll,
The schema is a file that tells you what your database is. It's not a file that controls anything on the database. It just tells you what's there. The migrations, you also don't change directly unless they haven't been ran yet. So the way that I like to think about this is, again, just like it's a blueprint. Let's say I have a blueprint to build my bathroom, and then I tell some workers to build my bathroom. If I go crumple up the blueprint, throw it in the trash, does my bathroom go away? No.
Well, doesn't your schema also operate like kind of like your main class, where whenever you make a call in your database, you're technically making a call on the current schema you're on?
I would not. You're making a call to the database. The schema is a file, or in general, it's an abstract way of just showing you what the database looks like. That's what a schema is. So whenever you say, let me see the schema for this, this is, by the way, even, I'm pretty sure if you're in SQL, which to be fair, I'm not that great at SQL, but I'm pretty sure even in SQL, if you look at the schema, what you're saying is you're running a command saying, show me the schema for this thing. It's not like the schema, you can change the schema directly, right? If you want to, like, let's say drop a table in SQL, you have to write drop table. You can't just edit the schema directly. So the schema is always a file that represents what the database is, if that makes sense.
I think you can still make direct changes to the schema, but it's more of like it's on like
you make indirect changes to the schema. You do not change the schema. So like let's run some code and actually get this. Maybe it'd be easier to show than to tell. So let's see.
I mean like properties of the schema. Like you can make direct changes to like certain properties of it, like what you're able to do. It's from like an authentication purpose.
I think you could change like what the file is showing. Probably you could probably be like, oh, my schema can't show passwords, but you can't change the database through the schema. is what I mean. So every time I create a migration, I Google it. I literally just Google it because I don't do it often enough to where I remember it manually. So I just look up migration, and I could look up Active Record, but Active Record is actually a package that exists in Rails. And since Rails is way more popular than Active Record is, sometimes it's easier to just look up like Rails than to look up Active Record. So cool. So inside of here, inside of this change is really what I'm trying to extract out. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that over, and we're just going to paste that in here. And I don't know why none of my syntax highlighting is working. That's really weird. I wonder if that works. Find out. Nope. Whatever. We're not getting syntax highlighting today. We're doing things the ugly way. Okay, so what properties might a user have?
A name.
A name. So a user might have a name. So we'll keep this one. Anything else they might have?
Password?
Yeah, password. I don't know if when you get to Rails, I'm sorry. When you get to Rails, you don't want to just type in password as an attribute. I don't know if it works in Active Record or not, but just to be safe, I'm going to call it something else. I'm going to call it password string or something like that. That's just to be safe. It's just one of those things where it's like a reserved word in Rails. So it's probably a good habit to break just writing password without thinking about it. At some point, you're going to need to keep it as password, but that's like a way later thing. Don't worry about that yet. Okay. Does anybody, just a real quick side note, but does anybody know what the difference between text and string is?
Does text have like a much higher character limit than string?
Exactly. Why might one want a string instead of a text? If a text just kind of seems better, it has more characters. There's two good reasons for this.
Just taking up less like space for like.
Takes up less space, and then maybe one other thing.
So no one has a 75,000 character password?
Sure, but I think that there we could probably have. Why is that a bad thing to have a 75,000 character password? In theory, that could be a great thing.
Time.
What?
It's a waste of everybody's time.
Yeah, so the other reason why is that it takes longer to query. So it takes longer to pull the information out, put the information back in. It takes more power to send it in and out. So anyways, we're going to go ahead and delete that. And actually, I'm going to take this and I'm going to call this username. I like that better. I think it's more fun for like a CLI app, you know? I don't put my real name in most apps that I use. On GitHub, I'm JJ Higgs, not Jonathan Higger. Cool. So we're going to give this a save, and we're going to run this migration. So I am going to go back to here. And how am I going to run the migration?
I know this. Don't you do rake db : migrate?
Rake, beautiful. What's so weird is that your microphone said you were muted, but you weren't muted. I don't know how that happened. Rake,
it's a secret.
Whoops. Rake db migrate. Bam, some stuff is probably happening. Cool, we created a users table. I'm going to go back and look at it. And now when we look at our schema, which I think I have to reload. I'm slow here. Let's do, now when we look at our schema, boop. Hey, now the schema is giving me information on what the fuck is going on. Cool. So again, like the schema is the blueprint for what got built. Someone said, let's make sure we just detail everything. Maybe our blueprint wanted to go this way, but here's what actually popped out afterwards. That's what the schema is for. So now what we have is we have a username and a password string. Great, time to start doing some CLI stuff. I want everybody to give me maybe a thumbs up, thumbs down, a thumbs up on this. Doesn't have to be a binary. It could be like somewhere, anywhere in between. See a halfway, mostly up, completely down. Someone who's less than like a 75%. Let's talk about what you might be confused on here. So someone just shout out the most confusing buzzword that you could think of.
When I downloaded that boilerplate, it opened up like a completely different thing. And then when I went to open it again, it was like the one we did yesterday. So it's just, I'm just kind of lost. So I got to go back and that's why I'm thumbs down.
Probably because you forked it and cloned it and maybe pushed it, but I don't know. Okay, that's a later problem. So we'll have to deal with that later. For now, just pay attention to what's going on. Don't get too stressed. Focus more on like what we're saying than trying to keep up at this point. Anybody else have anything that maybe there's just like a term you're not sure about? That would be something to cover now. And if you're completely like behind, just hit me up after and we can discuss.
Hey, John, I had a question. When we're creating a table and we put in like the symbol for like products, like, so what is that? Is that calling the table, like the table name is products then?
Yep, exactly. I should not have called this table products. Great. I'm dumb for that. So, okay, so how do I actually undo my migration?
You could do a rollback.
Yep. What I can't do is this. What I can't do is go in and change my migration and then remigrate it. I can't do that. Because that would be like, if I were to at this point just change my migration file, that would be like drawing on a blueprint for something that was already built. Like me drawing something on it doesn't actually change anything. Furthermore, if I draw on it, it's going to be harder to read when I go to take it back down before I rebuild it again. So I actually need that blueprint to destroy the bathroom as well. So I'm going to go back to here and I am going to rake db rollback, and that should undo the migration that we just did, and it will tell me what it did. So it says create users table reverting. And if I look back here, I should see that my schema, which I need to reload here, which how do I reload that? Is it just this? Let's find out. No, that didn't work. So I'm going to go ahead and go to my schema. Again, I just have to click on it again because there's some Vim configuration that I don't have set up. Schema. It should have undid itself, and it doesn't look like it did. I'm curious if I quit and open up again. Sorry. Oh yeah, see, we have nothing in there. I'm just bad at Vim. Cool, nothing wrong with that. Sweet, so that means we undid our migration. Let's redo our migration. So before we redo our migration, let's fix it. So I'm gonna go into DB, migrate this migration. And since this is what do we want our table to be called?
Users.
Users. So what am I gonna change to users?
Products.
Yup. Cool. Hey, my syntax highlighting is working now. I don't know why it is now, but cool. Thanks, Vim.
Hey, John.
Awesome. Yeah.
When you selected products, like, did you use a keyboard shortcut to like select an entire word and then delete it?
Yes, this is a Vim thing. You can't do it in code. What you can do in code is, let's say you have your cursor, hold down, are you on a Mac or Linux or what?
Mac.
Mac. So if you're on a Mac, hold down the Option key and just move left and right arrow. And you'll see that instead of moving your cursor by letter, you're moving cursor by word. And then what you can do is you can also delete by word. You could also hold down Shift and highlight by word. That's if you just learn that command today, you will make leaps and bounds in your productivity in the long run. And you could also try doing the same thing, but with command instead. I won't tell you what it does. Just explore it, and you're going to find it improves your workflow a lot. I know my workflow looks really slow right now, but that's because things are totally different when you're in Vim. It's like a completely different world. So, like, this is me after 2 weeks of doing nothing but Vim, and I still suck at it.
Thank you.
Cool. So now let's go in here and clear that. Now that we've created our, we fixed our thing, which let me double check to make sure I saved this. We did save it. How am I going to run this? Rake db migrate. Cool. We should have users table. Awesome. So we have our users table set up. how do I now create, let's just create a fake user real quick without worrying about anything with the CLI. Let's just do that first. How am I going to do that? What file am I going to go into?
Go into your seeds file.
Yeah, I'm going to go into my seeds. I'm going to seed the data. So I'm going to go in here and we're just going to create some shit. So I'm going to go ahead and just do user.create. And we'll make a user and we'll give him a username of JJ Higgs and a password of, oh, lordy, lordy, lord. And a password of, what's my password, y'all?
Password.
Doomslayer. Sorry, it's a better password. You can't deny it. Much more secure. And also, what's something that I might want at the top of my files here? I feel like Alex said something, but it was muted.
I just took a guess and said require pry.
No, the requiring stuff should be all sorted out because, well, we got.
Oh wait, do you want to do a hashtag comment and say like these are users? Because
that's a great idea. We could do that.
I do like some organization.
Feed in some users. Great, but there's one more thing that we could do here that would be great.
Destroy all or just delete all?
Destroy all. I think two people said it at the same time. Exactly. So in general, since when I run my seed file, I don't want to reseed the same data over and over again. So every time I do rake db seed, it literally just runs this file from top to bottom. So all that I need to do here is I'm just going to type in user.destroyAll. And the reason why I'm doing that is because I want to destroy all of the users each time I reseed, because maybe I want to play around with my seeds. And what I don't want to do is like, I don't want to make two JJ Higgs, you know, one of me is enough. Like y'all know that for sure. Great. So we've saved that. How do I run this?
Your password attribute is wrong.
You're correct. It is. Thank you. Good call. So we're going to make this password string. Oh, look, it did that for me. There we go, Vim. There we go, Vim. It's elusive. Great. So now we'll do this. Now, what am I going to do to run this file?
Is it still going to work without a model?
Is it still going to work without a model? We'll find out. What do I do next, though? Let's pretend like we don't need a model real quick. Let's find out if it works without a model.
Rake db seed.
Rake db seed. Rake db seed. Rake aborted. Uninitialized constant user. What? It says it doesn't have a constant called user. What do we think might be happening here? I wonder, Jack, do you think you can explain to me the chain of events that fires off that says this doesn't work?
Yeah, I could try. Let's see. The create command is an active record base method, and you're not calling it on anything. You're trying to do user.create. You also don't have a user anywhere, so it doesn't have it doesn't know what it's reading.
Yep. So Rails, or I'm sorry, Active Record in general, what it's doing is, because of the structure of this folder, it knows kind of where to look for things. And it says, I have these migrations. These migrations effectively changed my database, but the next thing that I need is I need a class that allows me to interface with that database. That's what a model is. And by the way, model is not just a Rails or Ruby specific term. This is a general term that gets applied to multiple backend frameworks. So if you understand what a model is in this context, it's really great. So I haven't created a model yet.
Wait, can you repeat that one more time? What's a model?
I want you to try and say it based off of what I just said, even if you do a shitty job, because you're going to learn more by doing a bad job explaining it than by me just telling it to you.
Don't we already know what a model is? Isn't that just? Well, I don't. Okay. I'm gonna guess a model is like similar to like a class in how we structure our data.
Ooh, so close. It's not similar
Is it
to a
really?
class. It is.
Okay.
It is a class.
It is.
And it
Okay,
has
cool.
Something to do with data. Who can expand on that?
Is it that a model is more of like it's a three-dimensional object, so it's going to be holding our hashes as opposed to holding like a flat database file?
Not exactly. There's a much better way to describe what a model is. So a model is a class. It is a class. It's a type of class, but it's specifically a class that can interface with the database. Think of it, it kind of rhymes. Interface with the database. But yeah, it can. So that's the thing that makes a model, is that it's a class that Ruby understands and can use, but also it has the built-in properties to be able to query a database, to be able to add stuff to a database, take stuff out, blah, 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 blah. It's still all technically querying, but whatever. A model is a class that can interface with the database. Super important. So we have to create a model, right? Because what Active Record does is Active Record says to itself, I need to run some code to query the database. The way that I'm going to run this code is, since I have a users table, I need a user model. That's what Active Record says to itself. If there's no user model, it doesn't have a way of connecting to that database. So we have to connect to the database. In order to do that, we're going to go and we are going to pop open our lib folder. And since we have this user model that I think we created and didn't do anything with, we're going to go inside of here. And now I am going to, we are going to just create this user class. Bam, bam. And what do I need to write on here to tell this user class that it's a model? Do I actually need a models folder inside of lib? I can't remember. I think I might.
Not technically.
What?
Not technically.
Yeah, I might not. I think in Rails it winds up in a models folder, but I don't know that we need it here.
Well, so structurally it'll still work.
We'll find out. Yeah, I think it'll work. I think it works fine. But okay, so what do I need in here to tell what do I need to say in order for Active Record to know that user is actually a model and not just a regular class? Any thoughts?
Is it less than Active Record : base?
Exactly. So what that's saying is, from the Active Record package, which we inherited in our boilerplate code, whatever, all those dependencies are figured out kind of in our boilerplate code. But from that Active Record method, inherit the base submodule. And that base submodule is what tells Active Record, hey, yo, this thing is a motherfucking model and not just a regular class. This is a model. This thing is supposed to interface with the database. Because guess what? I can write other things in here that are not models. I could write plenty of stuff in my lib folder that's not meant to be a model. I need to tell it to be a model. And I also need to let Active Record know that this user class exists. So cool, we did that. Now I'm going to save it. And we're going to go back here. And I am going to run, first I'm going to run clear so y'all can see what I'm writing. I'm going to fix this. I love the Flatiron logo there, but if it's inhibiting workflow, not worth it. Actually, I think we could just go in here. That'll probably solve the problem for now. Cool. So I'm going to run rake db migrate, not migrate, rake db seed, and we're going to see what happens. Boom. Looks like it ran. That's great. It ran. Everybody jump for joy. I just did. Man, I feel like I teach so much more animated when I have a standing desk. Cool. Oh, I got to get out of that. Yeah.
I got a Active Record statement invalid, SQLite 3, SQL exception, no table error.
Why don't you go ahead and try running rake db create? Let's see how good I am.
So it says that that table already exists. That database already exists.
You want to pull up your screen? Let's see if we could group debug it. Hopefully it's not like a Mac P1 chip problem.
Yeah.
Am I sharing still?
Yes, sir.
Where's my sharing menu? Zoom, what are you doing to me? I don't actually know where my menu is that has all these controls. Zoom likes to hide them sometimes. See if that does it. Nope. Meaning, oh wow. Stop sharing. Stop share. There we go. Cool. Why don't you go ahead and share now, and let's see if we can group debug it, because maybe someone else is running the same problem. We might not get as far as we initially intended on like the TTY stuff, but this active record stuff is like super important. So I think it's worth slowing down a little.
Yeah, so it's like this error right here.
SQLite3, no such table users. Can I see your SQLite file? Users.sqlite3. Oh, that's not in your database. It looks like, did you manually create a users.sqlite file?
No, I didn't.
Oh, yeah. Weird.
Because I ran into this issue with a couple build and burns with active records.
Can you close DB for a second? Just the folder on the left. Can you just, on the left in your file browser, can you just close DB? I just want to make sure that users is in there. Yeah, it is in there. Yeah, let's make that an after class problem, only because you know, I don't want to look stupid in front of everybody. No, it might take a minute to solve, so I would like to make sure that we're doing that right. It might also be something weird about like a P1 chip issue, so don't want to waste too much time on that. Cool, so I'm gonna go ahead and pop open my Zoom if Zoom sometimes stop being silly. And I am now going to, oh wow, oh start share, oh god. Cool, there we go. I'm sharing my screen, can y'all see? Oh, now everything came back too, great. Awesome. So now what we're going to try and do is actually do something useful with this user models that we created. Like, let's actually try and do something. First thing is, let's make sure that we actually seeded stuff. So later on, there's a really cool way of doing it. But for now, the easiest way is we're going to go to our runner file. So I am going to open up my runner file. And cool, we're already requiring in our environment. That's good. Let's just actually just before we do anything else, let's just put, I'm going to comment out this line of code. So just real quick, we're going to comment out that, and we're going to put, I think we want to do user.all. So that way I could just check to see which users are there. And this is an active record method that is given to us with the .all method. So I'm going to go ahead and write written. We're going to go to 0, and I am going to just type in, we're just going to like literally run the runner file. So I'm just going to type in Ruby runner.rb. And hey, look, it looks like we have a user that popped out. I don't like the way that it printed. It looks fucking garbage, but whatever. We have a user in there. It printed a user. That's great. That's a good start. Cool. So I am for now going to go into here, and we can start. That means we're probably in a good place to start thinking about how do we make a CLI app. So cool. So the first thing is let's delete that and start from nothing. I want to create a CLI file. So realistically, I think the way that we would want to do this here is we should probably have, for now, we're just going to go ahead and I'm trying to think of the appropriate place to put things is all, because like user would go in a models folder, and then where would CLI would go in a, like, I don't know, we could just make a folder for it. So let's make maybe a useful file just for funsies here. Or actually, we'll just put it in the root level just for ease. No, we want it to be in the environment, actually. So we're going to put it in the lib folder. So we're just going to make a CLI one. So I'm going to make a CLI.RB. For now, it's going to go in here. There's probably a better place to put that, but for now, this is where it's going to go. So in our CLI.RB, I'm just going to go ahead and make a CLI class. So I'm going to type in here class CLI. And the way that I want to start this is I want to make a method in here that's just start the CLI. So I'm going to type in, def start and cool. And for now, we want to work in as thinly of vertical slices as possible. We just want to see that we can hit this method. So all I'm going to do is type in puts congrats, you started. Great. And actually, I think I'm going to change up my workflow here so I'm not flipping between the other screen. And I am just going to make, I think this will make everybody's life easier if I do this. If I make it'll look hideous, but I do think it'll be a little easier. Now I have my terminal here. That should be a little easier for everybody to maybe do everything at the same time. I'm experimenting with stuff here, so cool. So now what I'm gonna do is I just want to test this. So cool. We're gonna go ahead and save this file, and I am gonna go down here and we're gonna run our runner file again. So I'm just gonna type in Ruby. Whoops. And if I'm correct, then I should see congrats, you started. Wait a minute. Nope, because I didn't change my runner file. So let's go ahead and go into our runner. And now, how do I invoke? Here's my question to y'all. So if I go here, what kind of method is this? Is this a class method, instance method? What's going on?
It's an instance method.
So it's an instance method. So now, how do I, how do I start an instance of CLI?
App equals CLI.new.
CLI.new. I don't actually need to set it equal to app. I'm just going to do CLI.new. And then how do I invoke an instance method on that? How do I invoke the instance method of start on that?
Dot start.
Dot start. Cool. So now if I'm right, then what this should do is this should just print out whatever I have in the other file, which it looks like is congrats, you started. So let's see. Congrats, we started. Hooray, it's a miracle. All right, so we're gonna do before, I think let's see if we can refactor to do TTY prompt after. Let's do this without TTY prompt first, because the truth is it's more important that you understand gets than TTY prompt as far as like understanding how user input works, because it's the most basic way of doing it. But what I want to do now is I want to create a sign-in for the user. So let's add a binding.pry to this so we can kind of play around with stuff. How am I going to add binding.pry to this project? Mary?
Require pry.
Yeah, we could do require pry, but also I need to probably do something else first. Let's look at the gem file. Whoops.
It should already be in there.
Oh Lord. Oh Lord. Oh man, I suck. Oh wait, pry is already in there. My bad. Sorry. Cool. So if pry is already in there, then yes, all we have to do is require pry. My apologies. Where am I going to require pry? Actually, do I even need to require pry? Is a better question. So I shouldn't need to require pry probably, because if I look in my environment file, which everything is requiring, it has this bundler.require line, bundler.require, and then also require bundler.setup. This basically requires everything from your gem file. So since it's requiring everything, I don't need to specifically require pry. Cool. So now I'm going to go ahead and we're going to go back into our CLI. And what might be the first thing that we want a user to do?
Give us their name.
Yeah, maybe let's first greet the user. So start. Let's think. What might the first thing do? Let's actually just do a greeting. So I'm actually going to put this in its own function because why not? So I'm going to call this def greet. And what are we going to say? Maybe something like, or we'll call it a pre-greeting because it's really not like when you're saying hello to the user. It's just like intro to the app. Let's call it intro. I like that better. Intro. And all we're going to do is we're going to say for here, nothing fancy, puts hello. Welcome to the user app. We don't do anything except let you log in. Cool. Now, when I start, how might I access this intro? How do I go from my start method to my intro method?
You can reference your intro method in your start method.
I could just literally call intro right there. And in Ruby, it automatically invokes it. So it automatically does that. So I could just leave it just like that. Nice. And also, I want to fix that tab. Beautiful.
That doesn't matter the order?
Nope, it shouldn't matter. The order inside of a class is not important. It just kind of references it by like what it's called. So let's prove that, right? So I'm going to go ahead and go into, I'm going to save this first, and then we're going to go and run it. See? Hello, welcome to the user app. We don't do anything except it says let you log in there, but you just can't see it. Sorry. Cool. So now we're going to go up and nice. Another thing that I might want to do is just clear everything. So I'm actually going to make another function. I'm just going to call it clear. It's a really simple function. Does everybody remember how do I clear a terminal from inside of Ruby?
System parenthesis quotation clear.
Yep. And I'm also willing to bet, actually, this is just a fun Ruby fact. Since this is just an argument to a function, I bet you don't even need those parentheses. I'm not confirmed on that, but it's just a guess. Let's find out. We're going to run this. Oh, wait. Probably need to actually call on that function. I'm going to actually call on this function like at the start of my other functions, because usually when I have a menu, I want to clear everything else before it. So I'm just going to put it here. Clear. Bam. Give this a save. Whoops. Give that a save. And then we're going to go down and we're going to run this again. Cool. It worked. Nice.
Can we invoke any command line function with system?
I believe so. Here, let's try it. Let's just do something crazy for a second. My recommendation would be not to do this in general, but for today's experiment, perhaps we can give it a shot. Whoops. I'm going to go ahead and go up here, and I am going to just type in, let's just do a weird system plugin. I'm going to type in system. We'll do something maybe that we know. What it would be a good example of something silly. Let's do ls, right? Ls should just list the files, so nothing dangerous there. Okay, actually there could be something dangerous about that in theory if you didn't want someone, whatever. Anyways, we're saving that. We're going to give it a shot. We're going to run this again. Oh, whoops, that was rake DB seed. Oops. I meant to do Ruby runner. Bam. And let's see if it lists everything. Hey, look, it listed stuff. Just a terminal command, that's all. Cool. So let's get rid of that, though. We definitely don't want that. Welcome to the user app where we don't let you do anything except for log in. And then maybe we could do like a puts. Let's do puts. Are you ready to log in finally? And awesome. And then under this, what do you think I might do to pause it right here and ask if someone's ready?
Gets.
Yeah, we're just going to do a gets. I'm going to do a gets, and I'm not even going to set it equal to anything. And all that, the whole purpose of that gets is to just pause it until a user presses enter. And what I might do in this circumstance is like, I don't know, press enter to continue. Something like that. Give this a save. And now let's run it. Hello, welcome to the user app. We don't do anything except let you log in. Are you ready to log in finally? Press enter to continue. That's a solid one. Nice. Bam. We could make a function for press enter to continue. That's another option. That might be nice. So let's try that out. Let's try. That didn't work. Bam. There we go. So now in here we could do maybe a def and oh whoops, I'm dumb. Def, we'll just do, we'll call it, make a function called pause, just an option, and then here we'll paste this in. Ooh, probably should put quotes around this stuff. Oh, whoops. And go to the beginning. Cool. And maybe we'll do gets. Oh, actually, these should probably be reversed. So now we have that, and we can get rid of this part. And now every time I want to pause, I just call pause. That's pretty sweet, right? Give this a save. And let's go down here, run this again. I always like to run it again just to check to make sure my refactor worked. And y'all should be doing this as well. You shouldn't just write a bunch of code and be like, hope all this 30 lines of code works. It's way easier to catch bugs if you're catching bugs in 5 lines of code than 30 lines of code. And I promise if you get into the habit now, it will always seem faster. Even if I'm making it look slow, partially because I suck at Vim and partially because I'm also trying to teach a class, right? So in general, you will never regret slowing yourself down. You will never regret slowing yourself down and testing as you go along. I promise you. Awesome. So cool. So now what might I want to do after this pause? What kind of protocol might I want to initiate after this in order to log a user in? What might I call something that I want to run after that?
Call a login method. Make a method.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to call a login method. And you know what? I want my code to be more transparent because I don't want to just write pause in there. I want to make it clear that pause is a method that I made. So I just like putting those invocations in front of it or parentheses. I'm invoking the function. I think it just makes it a little clear what's going on when someone's reading through it. That way, like if I think about it, when I'm looking at this, that's kind of harder to figure out what's going on if I just write pause there. At least for someone who reads Ruby all the time, it's not hard, but I think for a lot of people, like that would be difficult for me to follow along with. But cool. Sweet. So maybe the next thing that we'd want to do is invoke a login function. Have we created a login function? No. So our next little thin vertical slice here is going to be to make a login function. So I'm just going to go ahead and type in login and then bam. And now I am just going to say puts you're logged in, which would be a terrible login function. What might I want to do also in this login function? Can anybody think of anything that I might be missing real quick just to do this much, just to make it look a little bit more elegant? Probably want to clear the screen first. Cool. So I'm going to give this a save. We're going to go down here. We're going to run it. And all we want to do is just make sure we're hitting that login function. If this feels repetitive, good. It should feel repetitive. So awesome. We're going to run it again. Hello, are you welcome to the user app? We don't do anything except let you log in. You're logged in. Cool. So that worked. Now, how might we want to make this login a little bit better than just saying, congratulations, you're logged in? First of all, what is the information that we're going to need from a user?
Their username?
Yeah. So first, let's do, what is your username? Great. And then what might we want to do? What do you think we go next? Gets. So if I just do this, let's even put the chomp at the end of it. Is that all I need?
You need to set it equal to a variable.
Yeah. What might I call my variable?
Username.
Okay, cool. Like this? All good?
Yes.
Cool. All right, then what do I want to do?
Ask what is your password?
Okay. So just puts like that. And you know what? We're going to add question marks. Oops. And now I guess I'll say password equals, whoops. What is my password going to equal?
Gets.chomp.
Did everybody get my message yesterday, by the way, on what .chomp does and why? I put that
No,
in.
but I was about to just ask you, what does .chomp mean?
Yeah, no, glad you asked. I'm going to go ahead and, So anytime I put in an input, what's the last thing I press before it goes on to the next piece of code? Enter, right? I press enter in order to submit my code, right? So what else does enter do? Enter on your terminal says, oh, okay, you can now move on to the next step, but it also does one other thing. Anybody have an idea? It says
like executes the next.
So it does two things. It says, oh, okay, we're done. But the other thing that it does is it also adds a new line. And by a new line, I mean it adds a new line character. The way that a string is going to get read, let's say I make my password is password, and then I press enter. When I press enter, the way that that gets stored in a string is like this. And by the way, you see how that syntax highlighted it? This is a character that represents new line. That makes sense to everybody? Cool. So .chomp, it basically just cuts out all the white space. So in this case, a new line, this character gets considered as white space, cuts it off. That's what .chomp does. Make sense? Let's test what happens when we don't have .chomp in there. We're just going to do gets, and then we're going to print the password. Okay, and I have to use the P keyword and not puts because I don't puts outputs just the text only, and it's not like outputting the data type and all that stuff. This is P is usually a more thorough way of printing something. And also there's PP, which is pretty print, but cool. So let's go ahead and run this again. Ruby runner. Are you ready to log in finally? What's your username? Johnny. What's your password? JJJ. Oh, see how we get that new line character in there? Makes sense, right? Not too difficult of a little conceptualization layer. Great. So we're gonna go.
So, are we creating a new user right now?
Are we creating a new user? Sorry about that. I gotta see who called me. No one important. We are not creating a new user at all. All we're doing right now is we've just created 2 strings. One string is username, one string is password.
So you, by typing in Johnny, you just set it to the username variable.
By typing in Johnny, I just set it to equal to the username variable. This has nothing to do with active record yet. It's all going to come together really soon. I actually think we could finish this before 12. I'm super excited. Thought we weren't gonna be able to make it, but I think we are. So cool. So now we have a username and we have a password, but what are we going to compare it to? How do I know what to compare it to? This is the real tricky part here.
What do you mean by compare it to? Like,
that's what I'm saying. What do I do? Like, if I'm logging in, how do I know, like, if the username and password is correct? Where would that information be stored?
In the database.
In the database. That's exactly where it would be stored. How do I interface with the database?
Is this where you have to make associations?
What is the thing that we talked about earlier that allows me to connect to the database?
Your migration?
Nope.
No, the model. No.
The model. Exactly. The model is the thing that allows me to get connected to the database. Awesome. Love it. How do I pull up the user model from inside of this code?
Invoke the user class.
I literally just invoked the user class. And now all I need to do is, okay, so I have my user. What's a user class method? Does anybody know about active record methods that come from active record? Have y'all learned any of that yet? Cool. So which ones do we know about that allows me to search for one?
Find by.
Yeah. So because this is a model, it gets all these records from active record. Sorry, it gets all these methods from active record. It gets class methods and it gets instance methods. But right now we're searching through all of them. So the first thing that we have to do is probably a class method because we want to search through all of our users for a particular user. So what we're going to do is user.find by, and we're going to say, we'll do find by, and then the syntax in here is a key value pair. So if we want to find by username, right, then we're going to look here, and then what do you think and then this is the value that we're checking username for. So what do you think I'm going to put here?
Username.
Where is that coming from? What line of code is that coming from?
Well, in your Vim, it's line 3.
Yep. Cool. Whoopsie daisies. Great. So awesome. So now I've found this user. What else might I have to do?
You need to see if the password that they entered matches the password associated with that username.
Yeah, how do I pull the password off of this user?
So it should be pulling back that user instance.
Yes. So first, let's go ahead and why don't we see let's get a binding.pry in here and see what happens. So I'm actually just going to do that first. We're going to pop a binding.pry in here. And we're going to see what's good. I'm going to go ahead, do this. let's do enter. What's my username? Let's use the username that we created before. Yes, I do remember it. It's JJ Higgs. What is my password? I don't remember what my oh, is Doomslayer. I'm going to type in password, which is wrong password. It doesn't really matter now. Cool. I'm just going to go ahead and copy and paste this line of code, although it's literally just easier for me to type it. So I'm going to do user.findBy, and then username. It's going to be username. And we're going to see what this returns. Hey, it finds something. Look at that. It returns me this user. That's good to know. Now, let me ask y'all a question. Is this whole object, is this truthy or falsy?
Truthy.
Truthy, just because it exists. So it's not nil. All right, what if I were to do user.find by username, and then I were to make up like Rick Sanchez. I spelled Sanchez wrong. What do we expect to get back now?
Nil,
Why?
because there's nothing there.
Yeah, so there's no Rick Sanchez in my database. Hey, look, we got back nil. Is nil truthy or falsy?
Falsy.
Falsy, exactly. So I would say the first thing that we want to do is we want to see if the user is even in the database. So that's the first thing we're going to do. So let's do that check first. We're going to say if user.findBy, boop, then actually let's set this equal to a variable for now. We're going to go bam, bam, and we're just going to say, oh, fuck, I suck. Okay. We're just going to say user equals that, user.findBy, and then now because this equals whatever that findBy returns, we could just say if user, right? Because if the user comes back as an object, then it's truthy. If the user does not come back, if the user comes back as null, then it's falsy. So that means that this works just fine and dandy. So if user, then we'll say puts, for now, we'll do puts welcome. And then we could actually do user.name. Or if it doesn't come back, oh, whoops, I meant to do an else. We could put, sorry, I have to untab that, which I can tab things now. Oh, that feels great. Else puts user, let's start with this. User dot, oh, whoops. Yeah, that'll work. User dot name. Not found. And let's see if our code works. So we're going to go down here, exit pry, run this again. Enter. What is your username? John. What does it say? Oh, no method error. Name. User. Oh, it should be username. So it says that there's no name method on it. That's because the attribute that we gave it was username, not name. So I'm going to do username. Bam. Give this a save. And now we're going to check this again down here. And I am going to pull that up. Oh, whoops. Bam. Check this again. John. Oh, whoops. Now it said no method username for nil class. Ah, I see what's going on. Right. Let me ask you a question. I'm curious who could figure this out. If I were to input a correct name, do we think it'll work? Who says yes? Who says no? Thumbs up for yes, thumbs down for no. Don't flip on me, Alex. Everybody choose something. Make a choice. Everybody choose something. I see no's. I see a yes. I see no's. I think it's going to work, personally. So I'm going to go ahead and try running this. Oh, fucking A. Ruby runner. So I'm going to go ahead. My username was JJ Higgs. And then, hey, look, welcome, JJ Higgs. It did work. Let's talk about why. So what was the method that it was saying before? It said no method username for nil class. Let's walk through this code for a second here. Let's say I look up the username John. Okay, what does user become? Nate.
Sorry, I was not paying attention. What'd you say?
So let's say I put in a username of John. Does John exist in the database?
No.
So what does user become?
Nil.
Okay. What is nil.username?
Still nil, right?
Yep. And well, actually, no, it breaks. If I try to call a method on nil, it breaks. That's why it broke. So we get rid of that. Give it a save. Go down here, run it again. Bam. And now I'm going to put in a bad one. Now it says that user is not found. Because now instead of referencing that user, I'm referencing this username variable. Right? Cool. Now then, only if the user is correct, then we might want to do what? If the user is actually a user, what might we want to check next?
Their password?
Yep. So we could say if, what is my check going to look like? Let's make an else in there too. What do you think my condition is going to look like? If what equals what, or if something exists or doesn't exist, what is the deal?
If user.password string equals password.
Yeah, so what does that mean? So user.password.
So it's the user object that we got from the find by. So assuming we got J Higgs, it's your user instance.
Exactly. So we're checking to see if the user password string equals the password input from someone, right? If that exists, let's say puts congratulations, you logged in. Else puts fuck, you forgot your password. Cool. So now let's see if this part works. We're going to go down. We're going to say, we're going to go ahead and type in, we're going to run our Ruby runner. And it's going to ask me what my username is. JJ Higgs, we want to answer that correctly. Now it's going to ask me what my password is. Let's do an incorrect password. So I'm going to make one that's like, hello. Oh, fuck, you forgot your password. Let's try it again with the right password. Make sure it works. Always got to test your code, make sure it works. What is your username? JJ Higgs. What is my password? Doomslayer. Oh, congratulations, you logged in. Woo!
Hey, John, question for you.
Sure.
So when people are interacting with our app, right?
Yep.
Does it also pop out the SQL information? Is there a way where
there
we can
is a
clear
way to
that?
mute that? I just don't remember how. It's like you
Okay.
just got to go on a Google tangent for it and you'll find it. There's some setting you have to change and you could find a way to mute that. I just don't remember how. For now, like a temporary fix could be putting a clear in front of them, but I don't think that's the most elegant way of doing it, so I'm just not going to even bother with it. There is a way to, there's some setting you have to change to do it. I just
but that's
don't remember
something
what it is.
adjustable.
It is adjustable. It's just a 30-minute Googling tangent, possibly.
Cool.
But that's okay. It's Project Week. That's what Project Week is for. Great.
John, I just slacked it to you if you want to put it at the top of the CLI app.
Oh, shit. Why don't you put that in the channel for everybody to see?
I did that yesterday.
Oh, okay, cool. Let's see if it works. You're in which channel? Or wait, you sent it to me directly. I can't open things for some reason. Slack is going to shut down on me. Oh, okay, cool. Active record based logger. Nice. Oh shit.
I put it at the top line of the CLI class because then that way any SQL functions that are being called while you're in an instance of the CLI, it'll clear those.
Yeah, let's see if it works. Like there?
Yeah.
Cool. Let's see if it works. Good question. Run this again. CLI apps are not like a common kind of app to make. That's why if you don't remember that, oh yeah, it's working. Well, no, actually, I don't know if it's working yet. JJ Higgs, what is your password? Slayer. Hey. Now I definitely might want to do, I will say one thing I definitely might want to do is a clear before any of this. That's an easy enough thing to do. So that's an easy enough chunk of logic. Okay, now we found our user. We've confirmed that it's our user. Let's say we want to go to a main menu. Okay, I'm going to go main menu, we'll call it. Awesome. And that, and all we're going to do here is we're going to do a clear, and then we're going to do puts welcome to the main menu. And here I might want to do a pause. Whoops. Welcome to the main menu. All right. Let's say I need some information from that user to continue more. So let's just say, let's make options here. Or what are we doing on time? I'm going to call it for now. If y'all want, I could probably, let me look at the schedule, but I could probably do a continued lesson later, just depending on what the schedule looks like today, because I don't think I'm teaching anything else today. So maybe I could do a continued lesson later. Is that something y'all would want, or do y'all want some time to actually work on your shit? Because y'all need to be working on stuff too.
Is it going to take long to finish this method, the main menu one?
I don't think so. The main goal, there is kind of one crucial piece we're missing here. But I'm glad we went slow because we kind of figured out some stuff. So I'm glad we went slow, but I do think we should finish it up later. So
cool.
I'm gonna do a follow-up lesson later. For now, we're just gonna kind of leave it as is. It's gonna take me an hour to close Zoom. So let's figure that out. Meeting, stop share.
Thank you, John. This was really helpful.
Oh yeah, no problem.
I think